We are going to be doing a 7-round mock draft for the Bears today. The Bears are now in the 7th slot in the draft after falling to the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football and the Carolina Panthers winning last Sunday. So let's get right into it. We're going to go 7 rounds. Picking number 7, Dobbs, we have Ashton Jeanty, Abdul Carter, and Will Campbell on the board. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are gone. What are you thinking? This pick is cool, but I think after yesterday, it kind of has to be Will Campbell, no? Like, this is a good discussion. Like, let's talk about it. Like, if this is the board, and let's take Ashton Jeanty off. We have Abdul Carter and Will Campbell. What would your preference be?
This is really tough because honestly, Hunter, like in almost any other situation ever possible in existence, it's like, how do you possibly pass up on Abdul Carter? But I just feel like they need Will Campbell so desperately, but it really does pain me to pass on Abdul Carter. It really does. Like, it is really tough. I'm going to say this too, though. Here's what I will say. This is where when we have free agency, it will make a huge difference. Like if free agency was if this was real life and we already had an idea and we would know if we have filled other spots through free agency, right? Well, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, yeah, Abdul Carter is like for sure the best case scenario. And if it was made possible, you're taking Abdul Carter without even thinking about it right now. But assuming the situation is still what it is right now, I think we got to roll Will Campbell.
I think so too. Now, here's my thing. You do have 2 second-round picks, right? Like we have 39 and 40. So in my mind, there's going to be some IOL there, right? And I guess at this spot, would you move Will Campbell to tackle or guard, or are you having him stick at tackle?
Oh, I'm for sure moving him to guard.
Okay. So I guess my thing is, do you take Abdul Carter here, address 2 spots on the interior O-line in free agency, and then take an interior guy in the second round? Because Abdul Carter might be one of those players that is hard to pass up. He may be one of the blue chips in this draft.
No, you know what, Hunter, run it. Run Abdul. You're right. We're gonna just make assumptions. We're gonna figure it out some other way. You're right. We can't. Hunter, you're right. We always talk about it every year. We can't Jalen Carter it again.
No. So Abdul Carter is our first overall pick in the draft, and I think we'll do a mock. What we should do is we should do like an hour-long mock offseason where we do free agency and then we do the draft. I think that would be cool.
Oh, we definitely need to do that.
And then hopefully once we know Ben Johnson is the coach. All right, now we are sitting here and we have a back-to-back picks, so we don't have to worry about anybody getting taken. I think Gray Zabel is probably like a home run pick at this point, because of the fact of he has versatility, and we know North Dakota State has kind of churned out offensive linemen. Now, he is a tackle, but he would probably be moved in to guard. Real good PFF grades here if you like PFF. I mean, I think this is probably the one IOL. You not one IOL. You could also take Jonah Sevanaia. We talked with him with Steve. He's a tackle. He's got a little stiffness in his hips. But both of these guys, I feel like, would be good picks here. Dobbs, which way are you leaning?
Honestly, Tyler Booker, not bad pick either. But yeah, as far as the value going right now, I'm definitely thinking Zabel's the best play on the board as of right now. Again, we can't skip. We already went with our blue chip. We got to take a shot on a guy we have some faith in the upside. And we got to address the O-line, though.
All right, so now we're in an interesting spot because we got an interior offensive lineman and we have an edge rusher. Now, what do we want to do with our 40th overall pick? Because we also have 71, but then after 71, we don't have another pick for 143. Now, we can always trade up, but obviously that costs draft capital. I don't know if you want to do that. And I've heard some good things about Mike Green. And let's just take a look, because at the end of the day, this should all be trenches, right? Like, I don't even want to consider any other position. Like, these are our options here. So, Jonas Savanaia wouldn't be the worst pick in the world, but we also could get Princely, but he is an edge. We already took an edge. There's not a lot of interior, we have Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee. Where are you leaning, Dobbs?
This is a tough spot. And look, I'll say this, trading down wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but like let's take a look and see what guards we still got available. Let's just scroll tackles. Let's kind of scroll and take a look at the whole, you know what I mean?
So that's kind of why I don't think Savanaia would be the worst pick in the world, because there's a chance you could play him at tackle, but he'd probably be moved into guard. And I'm sure you could get, now mind you, these are all PFF rankings. Like, these are going to be adjusted by the time the combine comes around. And there's going to be risers and fallers, but I think Savanaia gives you some fluidity, but then you also have Tyler Booker, who has played at an SEC level, and he is a guard. Now, he didn't put up great grades this year, but I don't know. PFF, I take with a grain of salt. So
I was going to say, and what stands out to me at least though is that he's a much better pass blocker than run blocker. And we got a big guy. Savanaia though is it's tough. I would say we couldn't really go wrong. I honestly say either Booker or Savanaia does feel like the pick to me.
I also don't mind Princely because of his grades. Especially like if you look at what he did against Georgia. Another player that is interesting to me is Mike Green, who in a smaller conference, but has had a really, really good year at Marshall. And he actually, I believe he had like SEC teams coming to get him, and he wanted to stay at Marshall. So that's interesting. I mean, you could always look at this would not be a good pick, but the Bears desperately need help in the run game. You have some good options here.
We'll get that later, Hunter. Don't worry. We're gonna get the big boys up front to help out the run game, and we're gonna clean that up later. Don't worry.
I think my thing is you have to just take as many swings as you can on the offensive line, and I think Savanaia is probably the right pick here.
No, and as I always talk about my thing with this, and let the Eagles be a prime example. They don't necessarily have to even be a full-blown starter right away. You can give them that first year to get acclimated to the system, and then by year 2, they're hitting the ground running, starting productively. I think Savanaia gives us the highest ceiling in terms of there's still a lot of stuff we got to clean up, but I think Savanaia does give us that highest ceiling for that position.
Yeah, so now we have a edge rusher and 2 tackles that are probably being converted to guard. So if you look at that, even if one of them is not going to start right away, and you did go out in free agency, like, you're investing in your trenches, which is the most important thing.
It could be a 1-year deal just to give one of them, 2 of them time to get acclimated. Sometimes it's what you got to do.
Right. So now I think maybe looking at a guy like a Deion Walker or a Derek Harmon from Oregon to help with the interior pass rush, because if you look at what he's doing on the inside, 18.3 pass run win rate is really, really good from a defensive interior player. Usually 20 is considered like elite. And if you look at what he did versus Ohio State here, Michigan, obviously, the Idaho Vandals, that's an FCS team. But at the end of the day, like, it's still impressive what he's doing. They are the number 1 team in the nation. And as much as we need edge help, the interior is still a problem. Like, imagine pairing Derek Harmon with Andrew Billings and Gervon Dexter. Like, that is a pretty good interior. I'm not opposed to taking a tight end here, even though I don't think it's that big of a need. But tight end 2 is not good on the Bears. Quindarius Robinson has a really good pass rush win rate as well. He is a little bit of a smaller, leaner player, though, from my understanding. And I don't know. Like, are you more concerned about the edge or the interior for the Bears at this point?
No, I'm much more concerned about the interior, especially considering Pickens was just a healthy scratch. But I'm going to say this too.
Oh, he's one of the worst picks I've ever seen.
Farron. The thing about Farron though is it's like the conference matters, right? But it's like you could be getting a really, really special player. But to that point, look, again, we always talk about this too. It's like you already are paying Cole Kmet the money.
Yeah,
kind of got to bite that bullet and ride it out. I would say in this case right now, Harmon is the pick to me, Hunter.
I agree. That was where I was leaning. So we have 4 trench players in the first 4 rounds, which in my opinion is how the draft needs to go, regardless of how free agency goes. I think
Absolutely.
you have neglected investing heavy draft capital for a long time in the trenches that it's like, I don't care if it's like, oh my God, another lineman. Like, who cares? Like, that should not be on your mind at all. It should be attacking the quarterback and protecting the quarterback.
No,
So,
and you know how that goes is then you sprinkle the money on the other positions, like I was talking about my chemistry formula. You can address those in free agency with guys that are like proven commodities that aren't going to demand a ton of cap room, and then 1 or 2 at least of the trench guys are going to hit, as opposed to just taking 1 or 2 trench guys and then none of them hitting. You see how that works?
yeah.
Like what? At least when you double dip, triple dip, quadruple dip, 1 or 2 of them is going to hit. You can't just pick and choose and then hope they hit. It's not. It's just you got to go all in.
Now, I really
You're this
doubt
desperate.
Jonah Monheim is here in the 5th round. I think he's going to get pushed up the board because he has a ton of line versatility. Like, he's played tackle, he's played guard. Even if he doesn't play year 1, I think you have to take it's a really weak center class. Like, some of the top guys have gone back to school. Logan Jones, Parker Brailsford, Alabama. So I like taking a center here. Like, I don't think you can keep pushing off like developing centers. But I also, if you want to look at wide receiver or running back, I'm all ears. The only running back here is like Cam Scatabo. You have Jordan James from Oregon. I mean, what are you
Scroll down. I
feeling
was saying,
here?
scroll down that board for me a little bit here, Hunter. Just keep scrolling for me for a second.
Do you
running
want
back
just
board.
wide receiver, running back, or do you want all positions?
Just running back for right now. Just because I would just say I just want to see where the projections are for, you know what I mean? Like, kind of, I'm getting a vision for what we're gonna have. Yeah, just we're chilling. It definitely doesn't need to be addressed right now. I just because things are gonna change as the combine comes and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll say this too. Right, as of right now, given the Bears linebacking situation, Kobe King's not a bad pick either. I just don't think it's as pertinent of a need and back to the whole free agency thing.
Yeah. It would just optically, I feel like that pick would be really bad, especially with how much you're paying them. And it's also pretty disappointing that this is not draft related, but we haven't seen like Jack Sanborn very much at all.
No. Yeah, that you almost have forgotten about him at this point. I haven't, but you know what I'm saying. Where
Yeah.
it is, Hunter, it's kind of like we were just saying. Uh, Triple dip, quadruple dip, at least 1 or 2 is going to hit. Look,
That's why I feel like Monheim might not be the worst pick here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think again, injuries happen on the O line too.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I that's my thought process. Look, it's the Bears' biggest problem. Trenches on both sides. I think that the Bears are pretty well, I don't want to say pretty well built, but they're relatively well built in
On the
other spots that
outside,
are not as important. I think you take Monheim and you say, even if we don't start him this year, it's not a big deal because we love the upside.
Yeah, I think the versatility with all the picks you have is huge. I mean, all of these guys can play multiple positions. And I mean, we have Jake Curran starting at left guard. Like, what are we doing? Larry Borum starting at left tackle. What are we doing? Like,
See that, and that's the point, Hunter, is that you get good guys. You have faith in his backups, and even if they don't have start here, they have to step in, and then they can play productive, given some time to develop. That's best case scenario.
so I'm looking at kind of the board here, and a position that I think is actually really underrated, Dobbs, as a need. I'm going to put wide receiver, running back, tight end, and safety.
Oh, I was gonna say no. That's kind of where I might have even been thinking safety next myself, but
I mean, Malachi Moore, not a bad option. We have Dalen Carnell. Now, obviously, a lot of these guys outside of the bigger schools, like, I still need to do my research on, but I think we're just kind of drafting positionally at this point. I mean, people forget like Eddie Jackson was a late round pick from Alabama. Like,
no. I would say, look, if we're taking a safety, it has to be Malachi Moore. I was gonna say though too. Look, I also, when you want to have a really nice 2 tight end set, 3 tight ends. Look, I don't mind Oscar Delp at this point either. I think Oscar Delp's underrated. I think that he's kind of, I don't want to say even like misuse is not the right word because it's Georgia, where they don't misuse their time. But I think that you can kind of, I think he might be one of those guys that's a better pro than he was in college. But I think if we're talking value right here, I don't know. I think we got to go Malachi Moore personally.
I like that. I mean, the reality is Brisker has not been able to stay healthy. Kevin Byard is older and on a very limited contract. And Jonathan Owens stinks. Like, I don't know. So right now,
dancing after allowing the first down.
Let's
never forget.
We have Abdul Carter, Gray Zabel, Jonas Evan-Aida, Derek Harmon, Jonah Monheim, Malachi Moore. I like this draft class.
I'm loving what we got cooking right here.
And now we can just kind of pick what we want, I guess. I mean, we have Kobe Bryant from Kansas.
Hear me out. Honestly, it would not be. It's far from bad value in the. We're gonna think about it though. This is the point where I really got to take a look. We really got to take a look. Also, Joe Evans just randomly has his face and not his team logo.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Interesting little
unique PFF. Very unique. I mean, we could take a look at the running backs. None of these guys really move the needle for me. Like Damian Harris could be okay in the NFL, but
I mean, Donovan Edwards isn't like in the 7th round. Is not like that's I mean,
I'm not opposed. I mean, I don't really have like a preference for this spot. Like, you could take like. I also do think that the Bears really lack like a burner on the outside.
No, they do.
But I don't know enough about any of these prospects to tell you who's a burner and who's not. You look at the running back position. I think you maybe have to take a running back. I mean, I don't think DeAndre Swift is going to be there after 2025.
I'm just going to say this though, Hunter, too. Look, if you're like me, you're not a very big fan of Tyreek Stevenson at this point.
Yeah, true.
I'm going to say I really think Kobe Bryant actually might be best value. It's still on the board right here.
Let's do it. All right, so we did a very position needy draft. Now after the draft is up, I'll show you, our draft, and
because you guys can running back in free agency too.
Yeah, I think that might be the case. So
not a DeAndre Swift again. We're not paying a lot of money, but
no. Let us know in the comments, guys, what you guys think of this draft. I think this is a pretty position heavy need draft, like all out for the trenches. I don't care how you address it in free agency. I would still love this draft. To Bear Cave, we're going to be bringing you weekly content, more off-season content. Dobbs, what do you think about this draft?
I think PFF's hating on us, Hunter. Bottom 36% of drafts. Do they understand how bad the Bears need trenches?
I don't think they do. I think
they're hating on us, Hunter. I think this is a really good draft, given all things considered right now, what we know about these prospects.
Yeah, I agree. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been our Bears 7-round mock draft. Have a great rest of your night.